everybody can see my screen, and hello from the UK. So you can hopefully see to my right that we're using Mentimeter to grab some information and get to know you a little bit. So do feel free on your mobile or your laptop to go to menti.com, and if you put in the code 624241, you will be able to collaborate, gathering some intelligence during this presentation. For those of you who speak better Spanish than English, I'm bilingual, I'm from Mallorca, so questions, or if you want to come and talk to us, we can do in English and in Spanish. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the future of your PMO technology. So we're going to think about the challenges faced by PMOs and governance bodies in lockdown. We're going to talk about the future of PMOs and some of your considerations for that future. And we're also going to look at the technology that is emerging. And I've got a little video from one of my colleagues that's going to help you to see how technology can really help you and your PMO. So I'm going to start with introducing myself. My name is Emma-Ruth Arnaz-Pemberton. I'm the Director of Consulting Services at Wellington, and I work alongside all the different associations for project management all over the world. So really proud and really happy to be here with you today with IPRO and IPME. The other things that I do, I'm in charge of sustainability and corporate social responsibility for Wellington, so I arrange lots of different charity events, and I also arrange our Future PMO conference, which is a one-day event that we run every year specifically to bring PMO people together in a really fun and engaging environment. And you can find out more. We do have a stand, so you can come and talk to us about that and find out more whenever you want. We've got people there. I want to tell you a little bit about Wellington. You might not know us. We are a project management consulting firm. We specialize in a number of different areas, and we have offices in Madrid, offices in Windsor in the United Kingdom, and also in Dublin in Ireland. So our mission is to help our clients to make a step change in the maturity of their project management. And we do that through a few different things. The first is technology. So we are a Microsoft house. That's what we will be talking to you about today. Also, we work as a consultancy firm, so setting up project management and PMOs in organizations, as well as training. So we do lots of different types of training in the UK and all over the world. We are quite unique in the marketplace. We are the only Microsoft Gold partner that is also accredited by the APM, the Association for Project Management in the United Kingdom. The APM is the equivalent of IPRO, but in the UK. So they are also part of ICPME. We are members and partners of the PMO Global Alliance. We do have a very particular interest in PMO and governance, and we've recently been made or declared as leaders in PMO training for teams of PMOs by a company called Course Conductor, which we're really proud of. So, just in case you want to find out more about us, here are a list of our clients. It's a small list comparison to what clients we have. You might recognize some of the companies that you see there, Microsoft being one of them. We've actually done work deploying technology at Microsoft. You might know Dyson, Tata, Honda as well. So if you want to find out more about what we do and how we help our clients, you can have a look at our website, wellington.es, and you can look for our case studies. So what I want to do, I'm going to remind you now, for those of you that have joined, I think we have more people now. If you go to menti.com on your mobile or your laptop and put in the code 624241, you'll be able to see a question. The first one is really easy. Where are you joining us from? And we're going to go through a number of different questions over the next 45 minutes or so. So you can see we've got most people from Madrid so far. We've got some in France, Estonia, London, and Poland now as well. So this is something that we really like to do because it does kind of let us get to know you a little bit. It lets you be involved in the presentation, and yeah, it's something that we share afterwards as well, so we can show the diverse range of people that we find. So we've got somebody from Serbia as well, so that's really good. So I'm going to leave that up there. I'm going to move to the next question, which is also about you. And this one is around your role. So what role do you typically perform in your organisation? Are you a sponsor or a change leader? Are you a delivery manager or a team member? Do you work in the PMO or in one of the governance functions? Or are you more in the non-project space? So looking maybe more from an engineering perspective, and you're just interested to hear what we've got to show and say today. So we're going to leave that up there whilst we continue with the presentation now. So the first thing we're going to talk about are current challenges. What we're finding in the sense of PMO is three key areas where people are finding it difficult right now, particularly following the pandemic. We've all been working from home. And one of the key areas that we find people have trouble with is the communication space. Really looking at that, we're really connected with technology. We're all very connected today. We're, I'm sure, all using lots of technology every day to speak to people. But actually what we're finding is that we're also really disconnected at a human level. So we need to try and find that balance of being connected all the time through our devices, but also taking the time to remember that we're human first and PMO second. Also, what we're finding is that people are getting much more bombarded with information and requests because we're not sat in offices next to each other. It's actually a lot easier for people to just send requests. And with that comes expectations. We seem to live in a world where if I get an email, I must respond immediately. We want to stay away from that if we can. One of the things that people need to do more of and are struggling is summarizing conversations. So once we've had a meeting, let's actually summarize that at the end of the meeting, so we know that people are at home. They probably have lots of distractions, so we need to make sure that they've got the key messages after that, and people are really struggling with that because people want to get off the call, they want to get off the video, and they've got lots of different things going on. So fundamentally it comes down to that home life blurring, and I know that I suffered from it in the beginning of lockdown here in the UK, because normally I would go to work. So I get in my car, I would go to work, and it was a very clear line between home and work. And what I found working from home is that I didn't have that distinction. I didn't have that line that I had to cross. So I ended up working many hours, not really stopping. And my home life became blurred into my work life. And since then, I've got into a routine, and I think we all probably have, to really understand the value of being able to step away and have home time or family time. The next area that we find people are struggling with are the services of the PMO. So historically we find that PMOs are quite stable in terms of what they offer the business, but now things are different because governance isn't so easy. Stage gates and assurance, it's not so simple as let's have a meeting. So actually what we find is that different points of governance are being missed, and it's harder for us to see the evidence. We are very used to being next to each other, in front of each other in a room where we can show you my project plan and I can show you my documentation. And people are struggling with understanding, what does governance and assurance look like in this virtual world? Also, progress. Historically, again, we could see if people were panicking. We could see if there was something going on, whereas now it's very much based on trust. So some companies and some people are struggling with that because they are used to having the evidence in front of them. So we need to really consider, what does governance really look like? Is now the time for us to be more pragmatic about understanding what we really need? And kind of the last point in here is that PMOs at the moment are telling us that they have to be much more tactically focused. So whereas before we might have been doing lots of continuous improvement activities, making sure that we were developing people, at the moment what we're seeing is that monthly reporting is now being requested every week, if not every day in some cases. So we have to be a lot more tactical. And what that means for PMOs specifically is that the need is not clear. We don't know what services we will need to offer in the future, whatever that future looks like. And we're going to explore that a little bit later today. The last kind of key challenge that we find is around strategy of the PMO, and partly because organizations are changing direction. Maybe your organization has had to go digital in many ways that it wasn't expecting to go digital. And now what does that mean from a PMO perspective? So at Wellington, one of our key streams is training. We deliver accredited courses. We have the only PMO accredited courses that exist that are accredited by the APM in the UK. And for us, they've always been really valuable classroom-based courses, and we've had to spend the last couple of months really thinking about how do we make it virtual and still make it so that it's as valuable for a learner. So we've really changed our direction in terms of how we deliver training, because people aren't traveling. They're not going to come to a hotel. And we've done a pilot of our new, what we're calling remote live format. And that's gone really well. But our fundamental training strategy has changed because of COVID-19. And maybe your organization is going through the same challenge. Also, we're finding that we don't have as many people available. Certainly, we've seen lots of people being furloughed or being kind of placed on hold in terms of their contracts. And also the expectations from a cultural perspective of the organisation. At Wellington, again, we have a very unique culture. So for us, it's really important that we keep that culture regardless of what's going on out in the industry. Also, what does the future look like? The scope of the PMO is now in question in some areas. So that makes people worry about their job security. And it makes people really think about, actually, what does this mean for me personally? So the strategic side of our PMOs is something that is a challenge for lots of people right now. And I know that we've been doing lots of webinars to talk about, you know, how do we make PMOs strong now, ready for whatever the new normal looks like. So those are the current challenges. I'm hoping that some of those resound with you. What I'd like you to do now is let's go back to Mentimeter. So menti.com, and the code is 624241. And what I'd like you to do is, based on what I've said, is to think about your current challenges. What are your biggest challenges right now? Is it to do with communication, or actually getting visibility of your PMO? Maybe building relationships is an issue. That's something that does come up in our community events quite often. So I'd like you to go to menti.com and let's see what people are struggling with right now. And you don't have to put 5 in. You can put in as many or as few as you want. You can do it in Spanish or in English. I don't mind. So yeah, it's important for us to really understand some of the issues that you're finding. We can see some starting to build. So if you have recently joined, I could see some people have joined very recently. if you go to menti.com and add the code 624241, you'll be able to engage and get involved with this particular presentation. We can see here automatic reporting. We will talk about that towards the end of this presentation. Consistency is a really interesting one because we're not in the same building anymore, so people are just managing their days and their work how they want to, not how necessarily we as PMOs say that they should. And that does cause PMOs a little bit of a headache when we try and understand the status of all of our projects. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one on so we can see what we end up with. Some of the considerations that I want you to think about now when looking at the challenges that you're writing into Mentimeter. The first one, think about the community that you have in your organization. Are you sharing knowledge? Are you collaborating with your delivery teams? Is there anything within those challenges that could maybe be fixed with doing some work on your community, your project management community? And we can see that relationships is coming out on top at the moment, and maybe that's something that if we considered, actually, if we innovate in this area, if we build a community internally, maybe that's something that's going to fix some of those issues. Capability is also really important. There are lots of different methods, ways of working that are emerging all the time, and for PMO, it's important that we understand the principles of each of those. So things like project-based learning, which one of our courses is based around project-based learning. It's not about passing exams, it's about going back to the office after training and spending a couple of months working with a mentor to deliver something that's real. Can we give people experience in training as opposed to just theory? Also, taking the time to do some reflective practice. I'm going to ask you to do that at the end of this session, to really think about, based on what you've heard, what could you do differently? What could you go back to your work and do straight away? Another consideration when thinking about your challenges, and we can see in the responses, we've got things like governance, we've got budget, value creation. Thinking about, can we be more pragmatic about the level of governance that we apply to our projects and programs? Is now the right time to trust our delivery teams, our project managers, and remove some of the bureaucracy that goes with governance and assurance? And we've recently released an ebook about this so that it takes you step by step through a way of doing that allows you to understand how big or small is your project, how complex is it, and what level of organization and discipline does it really need. What we find is that sometimes we're running lots of projects, but they're not really projects. We just call them that because it allows us to report on them and get visibility. So really looking now at categorization and prioritization of our projects is a perfect time now to learn from this virtual working that we're currently dealing with. Also, the next consideration are the standards that you have. Are your standards very rigid? Could you make them a little bit simpler, maybe clearer? Because people can't come to your office now, knock on the door and sit down with you and talk to you whenever they want. You know, we've got to put appointments in and we've got to have virtual calls. So look at the standards that you have to see if we can make them a little bit more scalable, a little bit more realistic to what we're living in right now. And the last one is about your network. I'm sure you all have LinkedIn profiles, social media, lots of things happen because of our network. So build partnerships with people who are doing similar jobs to you. Join communities that are there specifically to share, and that way you can use that to kind of learn from each other. Now's a perfect time to understand how people are doing things differently to you. So let's talk a little bit about the future. what it is. And there are 4 key points here. One is think about what your organization is going to look like. If you're working in financial services, the chances are that you weren't very digital before 3 months ago, but now we've had to all go digital. We haven't had a choice. So consider what the organization, what's going to be important for the organization in the future. Also, I want you to consider your customers, the customers of your PMO, the customers of your governance teams. What do they need from you now? Before, maybe they needed support day to day, whereas now maybe they need technology help that we weren't given before. So consider what they're going to need. And also consider the challenges to that. You know, is your organization struggling with, bandwidth and Wi-Fi and connectivity issues? Understanding the challenges will help you to really think about finally what will be important to your organization. And if you do that, you can start to get a feel for what your future PMO will actually start to look like, what services you might stop offering, and also what you will start offering because of the current situation and what the new normal is going to look like. One of the last things before I ask you another question is just to introduce you to our PMO principles, the Wellington PMO principles that binds all PMOs together. We worked really hard to try and understand if there's something, because all PMOs are very different, so is there something that we can say applies to every single PMO that's out there? And we came up with 5. The first one is that we are instruments of integration. We bring people together, data together, information together, and we really should use that skill and that access in the organization to build positive relationships. The second is that we're very customer focused. We need to be focused on our customers, the project managers, the leaders within the organization who are using our services, who are consuming our reports and our data. Next is all about enabling capability. So really making sure that we're giving people the skills and the confidence to do their job right, whether it's in the same building or from a distance. We should be the single source of truth for the organization when it comes to change. We need to consider where the data is coming from and bring it all into one nice place so that we can say this is what's happening with our projects. So we're not building data models for every single different person. And lastly, support a learning organization. We don't learn very well as businesses. We tend to feel the pain 5 times before we'll change something. But a PMO can really help an organization to learn from mistakes, from opportunities, so that we can make more informed decisions in the future. So those are our 5 PMO principles. You can see them on our website, and you can come and talk to us if you want more information as well. So we're going to go back to Mentimeter now. What I'd like to do is, based on what I've just talked about, where do you think your biggest opportunities are for your PMO? So we've got here a graph that's hopefully going to show us, where the opportunities are based on the role that you do. So we can see community straight away. We need to build something around community. It's a really key thing that's becoming more and more and more important the more that we work remotely. We have to remember that we're human first. Capability, and it's interesting that is from a delivery manager, because we've had to adopt such a large amount of ways of working and technology. We've had to change so quickly that I think there's a real opportunity for people to really help others to adapt to this new reality. We can't assume that everybody knows how to use technology. So just, this virtual platform, which is awesome, we can't assume that everybody can log in and immediately start wandering around and talking to people. That's why, the APRO guys and the Welcome guys, they've been doing training for everybody and offering that. I think I'm not a gamer, so I logged in and immediately I was really overwhelmed by everything that was possible. So it's important that we think about technology and the ways of working so that we can show people how to do things. And governance is a recurring thing that comes up in all of our community events at the moment, because it's harder to do when we're not in the room. We're so used to being face to face with people. So yeah, I'm going to leave that graph there so that you can all go through that and we can see how many responses we can get. It's really interesting to me that community at the moment is kind of winning. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Baz, who's going to show you.
Gracias, Emma. Buenos días y hola a todo el mundo. Esto es todo mi en español. Today I'm going to provide you, that's a lot better by the way. Today I'm going to provide you with a brief overview of some of the tools that Microsoft provide within Microsoft 365 that can help the PMO to work smarter, and importantly, I will be demonstrating how you can use Microsoft Power BI to automate and standardize reporting across the portfolio, making it easier for the PMO to gain visibility. So let's begin by looking at the typical organization, which is made up of a variety of departments and teams. And in one way or another, they are likely to be interconnected and running joint projects. But in order to complete those projects, they are probably using a number of different apps and managing work in their own unique ways. It isn't efficient, and collaboration probably depends on emails or storing documentation on shared drives. And because of this, there is generally a lack of joined up visibility or clarity around project statuses. So this creates extra time-consuming work for the PMO. Now, the good news is that increasingly the typical organization is also adopting the cloud and Microsoft 365, within which you can access a number of project and work management solutions. In particular, I'm referring to Microsoft Planner, the recently released Project for the Web, and of course Project Online. There are other apps and solutions within Office 365 that can help you to manage work and gain visibility, but these are the three solutions that are the primary apps used by organizations to manage project portfolios. And when they are used individually or in a hybrid setup, they can help bridge the project management gaps within the organization and provide the PMO with much greater visibility. So that brings me on to the demonstration of Microsoft Power BI, the enterprise reporting solution from Microsoft, which is available in Microsoft 365 and also as a desktop app. Due to the time constraints we have, this will be a very brief overview to provide you with a flavor of what is possible. So with that, I'm going to switch over now to my demo environment. So here I am now looking at Microsoft Power BI, and in fact on the screen we see displayed a dashboard that we have built ourselves. The bulk of the data that I see reported is actually coming in from Microsoft Project Online. So here I do actually have Project Online set up in the background. This is the Project Center, and it's all of this data that's being pushed in to Microsoft Power BI for visualization. However, you can really connect to any data source that you have available. So if I click on the Get Data option, I can see that I can link to other online services. I can even look at files that maybe I have stored locally, and I can also connect to databases. So I'm going to run down this dashboard really quickly to illustrate one of the benefits of Power BI, and that is the power to stitch together data from multiple data sources. So again, some of this data resides in Project Online. Some of the data is coming in from Power Apps. We've also got some data coming in from SharePoint and from Microsoft Azure DevOps. But really, any data source that you have, you can visualize here in Power BI. Now, underpinning each one of these tiles is a detailed report, and we will go into that and have a look at that shortly. But first of all, I wanted to show you one of the party tricks that Power BI provides, and that is the ability to ask questions in plain English or plain whatever language it might be, and to see those reports being generated very quickly on the fly. So the question I'm going to type in is, show me cost variance by project name. And here I have the report. It's been generated dynamically in a very short period of time. So there I see a list of all my projects and the bars representing the amount of cost variance within each one of the projects. And obviously as I hover over, you can see that dynamic window popping up to show me the detail. I'll exit out of this and I'm going to drill down now into one of my tiles. So let's start here with project count. And this opens up the portfolio dashboard. I should point out that all of the reports that I'm about to show you now are standard reports that Microsoft provide as part of the Project Online content pack. So these are templates that you get as part of Project Online. So this, the portfolio dashboard, gives us the ability to set different filters along the top. These filters are configurable, so you can customize and drop in your own filters. But that's one of the options there. You can also actually subscribe people to these reports. So rather than somebody having to come across to Power BI to have a look at the data, we can actually send it directly to their inbox as a static report. So in order to do that, all you would do is click on Add New Subscription, specify who you want to receive the report, also indicate which reports you want them to receive and set the frequency, and then you are good to go. Cancelling out of this, let's have a very quick look at some of these standard reports. So this particular report, the portfolio dashboard, gives us some really good indicators and KPIs here on the left hand side. So we can see the total project count, we can see the total project cost, any cost variance, and this of course can reflect any currency that you want to set. But this really saves the PMO a lot of time because this is pulling in all of the information directly from the source and presenting it here so that we don't have to manually put it all together. Here on this particular report, we've got some standard out-of-the-box charts being displayed. So how many projects sit within each governance phase. So we have 9 in planning, for example, and 21 in execution. We can also see the makeup of the portfolio in this donut report, and we can see that within the portfolio, just over 23% of the projects are new product development, and we have just over 13% that are agile. Here at the bottom, we've got a list of all the projects being displayed. But what's interesting is that we can set the filters along the top, but also that these charts act as filters as well. So if I'm interested in looking at all of the planning projects, I click that, and we can see that all of the data set there on the left hand side is updated, as well as a list of projects here at the bottom. But I can do the same here with the donut report as well. So if I'm interested in all of the agile projects, click on that segment, and again all of the data set updates. Another report that I'm going to show you to illustrate some of the different visualizations is the portfolio timeline. So here I can see a roadmap displaying all of the different projects, and by the way, all of the projects are color coded, so that's what the colors mean. But we can see the percentage completed, and we can also see when the projects are occurring. Of course, I do have other filters along the top, so if I wanted to look at quarters instead of months and focus in on a particular quarter, I can do that very easily. Another standard report that I will demonstrate really quickly is the portfolio costs. Now, again, the cost information here is coming in from Project Online, but if you had cost information being held in other systems like Microsoft Dynamics or SAP or Oracle, again, we can bring that data in and maybe display the forecast data from Project Online against the actual data from the finance system. We also have a risk and issue report, and I will demonstrate this here now. So this is a combined risks and issues report with issues being visualized there on the left-hand side and risk information there on the right-hand side. And again, these charts also act as filters. So if I was to select Alex and I want to look at all the risks and issues that are owned by Alex, I can see that being displayed on the screen at the moment because that filter has been applied. Another report that I want to show you is the resource availability report, and this is looking at the data that comes in from the enterprise resource pool within Project Online. But here I can see demand and capacity over time. So there's the capacity line. This is the demand. I can also see availability over time being displayed, but my favorite part is this availability heat map, which is probably self-explanatory. Green means people have availability. Red means that somebody is incredibly stressed. If we wanted to see this information in greater level of detail, we can. by looking at some of these other reports. And the point that I'm illustrating here is that you can roll up the data at a very high level and see summary information, but if you want to go into the detail, you can really get into the detail as well using Power BI, which is super interactive. So here I'm looking at a particular resource and all of the data linked to that resource. The final report I'm going to show you, because of the time constraints that we have, is the project status report. This again is a standard report from Microsoft. Information being displayed there on the left hand side, some key KPIs being displayed there along the top as well, and we have various charts being displayed in the middle, although sometimes customers replace these charts with text commentary. We can also see milestone information being displayed, and if somebody really wanted to see more detail than what's being displayed on this report, they can link through directly to the schedule or to any other data source, really. But that unfortunately concludes this very short and sharp demo of Microsoft Power BI. There is more to it, so if you would like to learn more, then please do get in touch. But for now, I'm going to hand back to my colleague.
Thank you, Baz. So hopefully you found that interesting. So when we've talked about the challenges that we have, technology nowadays can really support our PMOs to move forward. So we've immediately seen how some of those governance challenges could be addressed, because we can build reports based on all sorts of data. If you don't have Project Online, you can use Excel if that's what you're using today. But the technology that's out there is allowing our PMOs to really innovate in the way that they work, especially now that we're doing things virtually, but also to spend less time doing administrative work, which is one of the key problems that PMO people tend to have, that we spend a lot of time doing administration. But then again, making sure that we spend that time that we save from doing admin doing something really useful, like supporting people in this virtual world, maybe helping with technology, maybe doing training and coaching and mentoring to make sure that everybody's comfortable working in their own environment. Remember, like I said right at the start, we have to remember that we are human first and PMO second, and we have to keep that human connection. So the last couple of things I wanted to talk about was around some of the things that you can do to implement changes to your PMO virtually, whether it's technology change, whether it's process change, whether you're going to build a community, or you're going to innovate in the way that you apply governance to your projects. There are 6 key things that I would like you to consider. The first one is make sure that you involve everybody who is one of your PMO customers. If you don't do that, they will feel much more outside of the group, particularly now that we are all working independently at home. It's not like we can all just sit in the same room together. This is the office, so we can see things happening. So make sure that everyone is involved, that they're interested in what we're doing. The second is think about the work packages that you are using, and this is something to consider for project managers as well as PMO. If you're going to give somebody something to do, make them smaller, make the work packages slightly smaller than normal, because when we think about virtual working, it's very easy to get distracted. I'm sure you all have got distracted. I know I have days where I procrastinate a lot more than others because there's always something to do at home. There's always something that I can be doing. So to help people, break down your work packages not into 6 weeks worth of work like we might normally do, maybe into 3-week chunks of work. It allows people to prioritize their time better, but also it will enable you to have more touch points with them on a more regular basis. Step 3 is all about document the need and the scope, and really important, what does success look like? So if we're going to ask somebody to do something, let's say once we've done X and we've achieved Y, that's what success looks like. We know that we will have achieved something great. In your PMO world, it might be around getting people to a community event, but always identify what success is going to look like for you. Step 4, whatever you're doing, make sure that you can measure progress. either through technology. We've just seen some awesome technology that can really help your PMO to do better things, but also through human touch points. Don't be scared, because it's virtual, to spend 10 minutes of the call just asking how everybody is, because just because people are at home does not mean that they're having valuable and insightful and inspiring conversations every day. So we need to make sure that we keep those human touch points. Step 5, give people an opportunity to give their own update. As a PMO, it's very easy to collect data and say this is our perspective on the world. But now it's more important than ever that people feel they have a voice. So give people the opportunity and praise progress more than you would normally have done. Actually say this is a really good job that's been really well done. Let's shout about it, so that people can see that, if they are working 10 hours at home, because they do have that problem of blurring work and life, that they feel that they're adding value. And the last step is, when you are developing something new, whether that's a community, whether that's a process or a technology, do that launch thoughtfully. Use various channels thoughtfully. Think about time zones. Think about the times that, even if you're all in the same time zone, that people are unlikely to be around. Think about what other people might have going on. I know that the norm for my calls now with some of my clients in the US are where, it's first thing in the morning for them, it's late in the day for me, so they've got their children kind of eating breakfast sat next to them, or in the evening, there's a cat that walks across the screen. So really consider people's reality and use different channels. Don't bombard people with emails or team messages, because it can be really, really overwhelming. So really consider the audience and launch anything new in a thoughtful way. Okay, so that's pretty much it from me. I do have a couple more bits, but we're going to go back to Mentimeter, and this one I'm going to leave up for a little while as well, because what I want you to think about is, based on what you've heard today, what you've seen from my colleague Baz, what will you do next for your PMO? So really think about that and consider that reflection. We don't take much time to reflect on how we're performing, the things that we can do. And I really value that time to be able to take a step back. And these few days with April, now's the time. You're going to learn and listen to lots of people telling you lots of new stuff. So take the time to really reflect on, what do you do well, what are your opportunities, and based on what you've heard, what will you do next? And like I say, I'm going to leave this one up for a little while as well. So finally, we were going to do Q&A, but I'm conscious of time. So what I would say is, if you have any questions, I will be on the stand with my colleague Elena and my other colleague Antonio. And Phil, do come and talk to us and ask us questions. We're happy to chat, to show you whatever you need, and to give you some ideas and some inspiration maybe to what works with other companies and some of our clients. Finally, one of the things that you can do, which is free, is do an MOT or an IPV on your PMO right now. If you go to your backpack, you have this in English and in Spanish, so you can pick which one, or you can do it twice if you want to. And this will ask you a series of questions, and it will show you areas that your PMO is performing particularly well, and it will also identify areas for improvement. And this is a really handy thing that you can do with your team. You can do it together or on your own, but you can use it as a case for change. You can say, actually, these are some of the areas that now is the really good time for us to make these changes, to think about how we support our businesses. So you will have it in your virtual backpack from this conference, but also you'll find it on our websites. And the last point from me, stay in touch. At Wellington, we love building relationships. That's our whole thing. So come meet. You can scan the QR code and follow me on LinkedIn. You can search, for me in particular, I'm PMO Ninjas. Why? Because I think PMOs work in the background quite stealth-like in the background, so making everybody else look good. So that's why my social media tag is PMO Ninjas. But do stay in touch. We are here if you want some inspiration. We happily will speak to you for half an hour and give you some ideas and learn a little bit more about you. We will be on the stand for the rest of this conference. I hope this has been insightful for you. Thank you very much.